Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Elegant Spaces. We have Marvin from Calgary. He works for Trico Home, and we have a pleasure to have him here. Hi, Marvin. Welcome here on Elegant Spaces.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about you, where you from, and what do you do actually, and how long you've been in Calgary for?
I've been in Calgary for most of my life. I moved here from Chile when I was 4 years old.
Right.
So yeah, I've pretty much been here my entire life. Been in the industry for how coming up on 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So
Start.
same as in like a builder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Working for builders for about 10 years now. So yeah, it's been great.
So when you say builder, like you've been working with Trico from last 10 years, or you or
No, no. I started with Sterling, and then I moved to a couple other builders, and I've been with Trico now for about 4 years.
Oh, 4 years.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about a little bit more about Trico? Like, what does they do though?
Um, what do you mean?
So I mean, like, so basically they build brand new houses, right? Front garage, laned homes, something like that, or do they do something else as well, like land development and
So no land development. Like there's different divisions of Trico. Like I work for Trico Residential, which we
right?
do mostly like um townhouses, duplexes, lane houses, front garage, semi estates, full estates. Like we pretty much do like the whole spectrum essentially.
Okay, okay,
But yeah, like that's what pretty much Trico does in for residential side. And they also have like the community side, which does more of like the leasing side of like rentals and like more like townhouse rentals and apartment rentals and such. So
okay,
they have
okay.
three different divisions.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll go that later, but let's talk about you first. And
Yeah,
so when you said you've been here a long time, like, so when did you move here? How old were you though?
from I was four.
You were 4 year old.
I was four
So
years
your
old when I
parents were immigrants when you came here.
yes, yeah,
Okay, okay. And what was your first job?
Burger King.
Burger King. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I was like 15 years old. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
So how was that experience?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Like it was like my first job, so you just do what you gotta do to make some money at first, right?
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So what most interests you while you're working, like especially let's say from the Burger King job till now, what was your most interesting job and what do you like about those things?
I think genuinely, like I think I've just enjoyed real estate the best so far.
Right,
Like it's just a very different like dealing with all the personalities that you deal with
right.
and just even the challenges and like everything that comes along with it from like just dealing with little things that come up throughout the build and it's interesting, like I find like there's a lot of satisfaction and in like having like something come up and then being able to overcome it and then being able to give that customer good satisfaction throughout the process as well.
So you like the customer service basically over everything else.
Yeah, yeah, essentially, I guess.
Right, right. So what's the most challenges you feel in the same field?
Oh, like there's challenges all the time, like all the time with all sorts of like you come across challenges. They're all unique to like that individual's
Right,
process. Like it would just be like sometimes it could just be they might have selected a certain type of countertop and a different one got installed,
right.
right? And then like making sure like that the right one ended up getting installed, so end up ripping it out, putting the proper one in, sort of thing. Like so, like and they stress out during the process of being like, oh my god, like this is the wrong one, and like they think that we're not going to fix it, but like knowing that we'd be like, hey, no, don't worry, we're going to take care of you, kind of thing. Like we'll put the right one in, check the paperwork, make sure it's like okay, you actually did select this one, we installed this one, sort of thing. The wrong one, we'll we go through the process and making sure that like we resolve that problem essentially.
Right, right, right. Okay. So that's another thing of people service when you come to this industry is like very challenging in this kind of scenario because every day you come up with different people like, okay, I want this, but you actually gave me this kind of things, right?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time, right? Like it's like, and that's like the thing about like building. It's just like there's so many moving parts to it, right?
True.
From all like even designers to like the drafters to the architects to the all the trades that get involved and like there's just so many different trades that go in and out of the house and like there's bound to be like some sort of mistake somewhere, right? Like when there's just that many moving parts, like it's just like there's always gonna be something that's gonna come up and we just have to deal with it and just fix it accordingly.
So while actually let's have a more deep talk about this while you're
Okay.
actually on this topic.
Yeah.
So when we go to the builder, and especially like the big builders like Trico Homes, Sterling Homes, we mentioned already, right? So what's the best thing as a customer when we go there? What's the best thing you can ask for, and what's your strategy how to handle a client when they go in without a realtor or without any representative?
I think at the end of the day, it's just trying to figure out what their end goal is, right?
Echo.
So
Yeah.
trying to figure out like why they're there to begin with. So
Right.
like, like trying to figure out why they're moving.
Right.
Right. For me, it's just more or less trying to figure out like why they're moving to begin with, because there's just something there's a reason why they're on the fence to begin with, and just
Right.
like finding out that reason why, so I can get them off the fence to be like, okay, like this is what you need essentially, right? So trying to figure out like why they're moving, so I can get them to essentially like make that decision. Because a lot of times it's like if you can't find out why they're moving, it's hard for me to move them forward because they're just like they feel like you haven't really like talked to them about the whole reason they've even started moving to begin with, or even started looking, I guess, to begin with.
Right, right. So is there any challenges as sure in that case as well? Like, while they first come in versus they come in second time versus they come like 10th time. So what's the difference do you see in that kind of things? Like, because now they're every time they come in, they're more educated, right? Because you've been giving them more knowledge. Now they actually go to different builders as well. But now they come to you with the different aspects. Be like, okay, this builder is offering this much, and this top builder is actually giving you this things as well. So do they come to you as well in that case? Be like, hey, I want this. Well, in that kind of scenarios.
Oh yeah, like all the time. Like I think at the end of the day, like some people are very guarded as to why they're moving to begin with. They won't tell you the exact same reason, like, or the exact reason why they're moving when they first walk in the door. But like, I mean, 'cause, like after they kind of get comfortable with you, they'll probably start sharing a little bit more of like, okay, like the real reason why we're actually moving is this, right? And like, and it varies from person to person, right? Like
Right.
sometimes it could be like the community that they're in. Sometimes it could just be like the house that they live in. Whether it's just like, like they're a growing family, like they need a bigger house. Like some of those ones are really simple. Like they'll tell you like straight up, like, okay, well, like we're expecting another one on the way, and like we need a bigger house. We only have one, and now we have like another one coming, so like you need a bigger house sort of thing, right? So little things like that. Sometimes they'll tell you like just up front. Well,
Yeah.
some other ones they won't tell you up front. Like though you have to kind of find out
You
why
have to
and kind
dig
of
deep.
dig into the reason why they're moving.
Right.
And sometimes it takes a few visits for them to just be honest with you. And then once you kind of like have that connection with them, when like you're actually when they actually tell you why, that's when like you can be like, okay, like I understand why you're moving, and you can potentially empathize with them and be like, okay, like this is why I understand why you're looking for this particular type of home.
Right.
Right. Like whether it could be like a lifestyle change, right? Like maybe like their
True,
parents
true.
are coming over and like, hey, my parents need a bedroom on the main floor with a full washroom. Like,
That kind of
and
thing. Yeah,
little things like that where you have to find out the reason why. So like for me, it's like part of the challenge of just like of my every day to day, like I guess hustle in my work as to why they're actually wanting to move,
yeah.
right?
Right, right, of course. So it's basically you first understand their needs and then you go forward and
Yeah,
make
like
it
and that's
better.
that's the biggest thing, right? You want to find out like why,
And it
right?
happens to you sometimes, like, okay, you give them something they would like, but now they changing their mind, even after the deposit as their terms, conditions have been waived. So have you met with that kind of thing as well, or
Sometimes,
yeah?
there's like the odd one who is just like who will purchase firm up conditions and everything, and then like down the process, they'll be like, "Hey, is it still possible for me to change houses?"
Yeah.
And then like you have to kind of revert back to be like, "Hey, I thought the whole reason why you bought this house was because of this,
Right.
and I thought the reason why we talked about you not getting this house was because of this, this, and this." So like, it just you have to like, and in some cases, like, okay, can we make that change? Like, depending on where it is in the process. Like, if it's like very early in the process, we could probably cancel the agreement, rewrite an agreement on like on a different house, different lot, whatever it is that they need. Um, but like if it's like too far gone in the process where it's just like, hey, like we're way past that point where we can make that type of change.
So, but builder allows you to change that kind of thing after waiving conditions?
It's varies builder to builder, of course, but like
Do they
um
charge you anything after that, or
not really.
yeah?
Like, I mean, like I mean, it all kind of depends on what like that person's reason being is, and like where like we are in the process. Like I was saying, so like if we're just too far gone, where we're already applying for permits, like, and they're like, hey, like I really want to switch houses. Like we're too far past that. Like
Then
we're
it's
like
hard.
we've already applied for permits. Like we can't just we've done all the work to get to this point from the drafting to the selections and everything, and you want to switch houses now, like. Like, and it could be like then that person might have just had like a promotion where like now they can afford the house that they originally wanted. It's like we're just a little too late past that. Where
Right, right.
like
This is very hard for them.
right, so
Yes.
like I've had that happen before where someone just could potentially afford it like the house that they originally wanted, but they like were like trying to be conservative and trying to make sure that they get the house that they can afford at that time that they purchased, and then down the process it like maybe their lifestyle changed.
Right, yeah. So how do you guys tackle the situation once is actually so going after the buyers who couldn't close their deals? So how do you guys tackle that kind of thing? Because now, because everybody's situation changes over time.
Right,
So they first bought the house because they could afford the house, but now they lost their job or certain reasons they couldn't close the house.
right,
So now on their closing, they couldn't close it.
Right.
So what builder does in that kind of scenario?
In the case where they couldn't close, they would just typically like mean that they would default on on the home itself. So meaning that we would keep the deposit, and then they would pretty much walk away without a house. So like not ideal, right?
Yeah.
I've had that happen like once in my entire career where someone just couldn't close on their home, and
Oh wow.
it was really upsetting to me.
Of course.
That was like I tried everything I could do to make that customer try to close, and it just I think he kind of gave up throughout the process, and he was like, it's okay, it's okay. I was like, you're gonna lose your deposit, like you
Yeah.
understand that, like,
True.
and so it really upset me when like that kind of happened. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I know in my heart that I tried my hardest to do what I could to give him the options of what he could do to close, and he just didn't take those options. But I mean, at the end of the day, like if yeah, if they're trying to close, like I would say, like, look for, cosigner, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even like, or if there was just like, they couldn't come with the funds to close or whatever, just because they didn't put enough of deposit to begin with. Like
Right.
sometimes they could be like, look, we like banks will take gifted funds. Like if you can, like get for someone from your family to gift the funds or whatever, right? Or like,
Yeah.
or yeah, I think a cosigner, if they're just like, if they have an employment change and the banks no longer looks at like you had enough time on this new employment because you totally switched totally different
Of
careers
course. Of
or
course.
whatever it is, right? So like just looking at different options of what you can do. Um, yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting though how things moves quickly and that kind of things. So how because myself as well, a lot of people are actually confused about the builder warranties,
Okay.
right? So they're like offering for first years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Right.
Before there was no 2 years, it was 1 year, 5 year, 10 years. And now there's actually introduced another 2 years in there as well. So what kind of thing in there? Like if let's say if I'm a brand new person, I don't know anything in there. I go to you, like how do you explain that kind of thing to begin with?
So yeah, like most builders will give a well, they all have to require to give a warranty.
Yeah,
But they'll usually give like a 1 year builder warranty where everything's pretty much covered from front to back from on the house for the first year,
right.
right? And the builder will typically do like your walkthroughs throughout the process. They might do like a 90-day or like a 6 month or 1 year or whatever it is, depending on the builder. They have different amounts of walkthroughs that they do.
Yeah.
From then you have a 2 year delivery and distribution, which covers like your mechanical system, plumbing, basically anything to do with the mechanicals of the home,
Okay.
right? And then you have a 5 year building envelope. So that would cover basically like not necessarily like the exterior of the home, but not necessarily something to do with like insurance claims.
Right.
So if there was a hailstorm, like that wouldn't be covered under the 5 year, that would be covered by your insurance.
Insurance company. Yeah.
But like let's say there was a heavy rainfall and like there was water coming in through the windows, which shouldn't happen,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden like you notice that your wall's damp on the inside, like that's covered under warranty because that shouldn't happen, right?
And
And
that
then
goes 10 years.
that would be 5 years.
5 years.
You
Okay.
do most builders, you typically have like an option to purchase an additional 2 year building envelope. So instead of having the 5 year, you can up it up to 7.
Yeah.
More often than not, if something's going to happen in like to that envelope, it's going to happen within 5 years.
Right.
So like you do have the option to purchase another 2 years if that purchaser wanted to, and then you have a 10 year structural, which covers basically the structure of the home for 10 years.
Got it. Okay. So is it like they have to buy? So it's called Alberta Home New Warranty, right?
Yeah, Alberta New Home Warranty.
And do they have to purchase it, or is it actually come standard with the
It
brand new
comes
house?
standard with the build. So not every builder uses Alberta New Home Warranty. There's different warranty programs.
Yeah.
Trico uses Alberta New Home Warranty. Most builders in Calgary use Alberta New Home Warranty, but not every single one of them does.
Right.
But it's by law required to have an insurance or warranty with the build.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just standardly come along with the new house, and it covers you pretty much out of all the aspects, like which can potentially go wrong in the brand new house,
Right.
right?
Right.
So do you guys cover paint, flooring, and that kind of thing, right?
Well, like I mean, like aside from like wear and tear, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, like the paint should already be done like from like it should already be done properly when you move in.
Yeah.
And like in the odd case where it isn't, like well, like like if the site super comes back or the warranty team comes back after your visit and like realizes like, hey, like this paint just really wasn't done to our satisfaction, like they probably would send someone back in to repaint the place, whatever it needed. But like it would cover everything that was required to do with the home. So like like if you're like let's say like your I guess like appliances break down, like that would be like part of like the manufacturer's warranty.
Mhm.
But like let's say like your cabinets were just like, like loose or whatever, like we'd come back and we'd adjust those, right? Like if the flooring was like separated, like we'd come back and we'd adjust those. So like things that just technically shouldn't happen essentially, not just because of wear and tear.
So, apart from this, your busy schedule, I would say you'll get a lot of clients throughout the day, right? What do you do on your free days, or do you even have a free days on your work schedule?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
Like so, like I guess my free days, I spend it with my kids.
yeah,
So yeah, I just try to spend as much time with them as possible. Like take them places wherever they want to go. Take them shopping. Like I recently just took them shopping, and
right,
they're growing needs new shoes because they're outgrowing those shoes. So
of course.
yeah,
And how old is your kids, and what do you have, girls or boys?
I have two girls.
Two girls, yeah.
One of them's turning 8
Oh,
like right
nice.
away here, and
Yeah,
then the other one's 10 and turning 11 later this year.
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. So, how you feel being a dad of two daughters?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. It was like probably like the best thing that could happen to me for
Like,
sure.
what responsibility do you have, like, or what extra things you have to do apart from your regular routine for your daughters?
Well, I guess like it's like taking them to their like leisurely activities, right? Where they're like, they're girls, so they're in cheer, drama, gymnastics, they like that, like those type of extracurricular activities, I guess, and like helping them out in their studies, and
Right.
they're just kids. They just want to have like fun at the end of the day and just want to be like, taken care of and making sure they're fed and all that kind of stuff,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So
I think that's what they need, though. They,
yeah,
especially kids at this age, right? They'd be like,
right,
"Oh, Dad, I want to go here. I want to go here.
right.
Take me around."
Yeah, no, they're pretty chill. Like they're different personalities, right? Like my oldest one, she was just like she kind of likes going out and about. And
Yeah,
my youngest one's just like very much just likes to chill.
just she
She's
wants
just
to
like
sit home and do something.
yeah, yeah. She'll just sit at home and she'll be like, I just want to chill. Like, well, like my youngest be like, we'll just be like, well, I want to go out places. I want to go over here. My youngest be like, no, can we not? Like, I don't want to walk around. Like, can we just chill?
Of
So like,
course.
there's very different personalities and trying to balance up being like, okay, do we like, what do we do? Like, do we sit at home or do we chill? And or do I make the other one happy and go out somewhere? Like, so like, you just kind of have to like kind
Balance
of
out.
balance it out. Like some
Yeah.
days we go out, some days we chill. So it's just whatever they kind of want to do. And
So do you feel bossy around as well? Like now you have three girls around you, right? So do they even listen to you, or be like, okay, now you just stay on the corner, be like, okay, now you just listen to your daughters and wife?
no, I mean, like, they listen.
Yeah,
They listen, but, like, at the end of the day, it's like, I still kind of, like, let them do what they wanna do to a certain
right,
extent, of course, right? Like, I listen to them a lot of just, like, making sure that they're happy, right? Like,
right.
because at the end of the day, it's like, I'm just, like I only have, I'm not with their mom anymore. So I just try to spend as much time as I can with them
With
as
the
I
kids,
can,
yeah,
and then like at the end of the day, is just try to do what they want to do. Is I only have them for like a limited time, right? So
right,
I think it would have been probably a little bit different if I had them full time,
right.
where like I would come home to them a lot. It would be maybe like a different situation, but like with me only having them like a few days a week,
Oh, okay,
like I try to like do what they want to do and try to like do like my life no longer revolves around me on those days, it
right,
revolves
right,
around them, right?
right,
So like the rest of the week is like where I take care of like all like my like day to day like activities. If I got to go to the bank or business meetings or whatever it is, like I just like I'll take care of those on my days, and then the days I have them, it's just like my world revolves around them.
right, right, right.
Yeah,
That's actually a nice feeling around them.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do beside this for your leisure? Do you go out hiking or swimming, or what do you do for your?
I go to the gym.
Yeah,
So I go to the gym often. Like well, I'd like to say often. Like I used to go all the time. Like back like before like my
right.
previous life, I should say.
Previous
Um,
life, okay.
yeah, I used to go all the time. Like I used to be a personal trainer before I even got into real estate.
Right,
So like I used to work out like all the time, like 5 days a week, 6 days a week, like sometimes twice a day. Like it was like often, right? And then
right.
now like um I've just like I'm like if I can go to the gym like a few times a week, like I'm happy.
Oh, you're fine
You
with
know?
that.
Oh yeah, like it just my I think like just everything's kind of changed. Like the way I kind of look at like health and fitness has changed and stop being like so like super involved into like the fitness part of life where like now I just kind of like have the balance of it, right? Where
Right,
like
right,
it's I think even just like having like the pandemic like happen like that kind of played a big part on like the shifting my mindset from being like going like 6 days a week to being like not going at all like during the pandemic. And then all of a sudden I was just like I kind of started to enjoy being like, hey, I can like not necessarily have to go to this meeting I have with myself at the gym, right?
right. Of course, of course. So you're from South America, pretty much, right?
Right.
So South American, they're actually known for parties and all those things.
Yeah.
Are you into parties as well? Like,
Not
because
so much anymore.
not anymore, right?
No, I think like those days of like happened for sure when I was younger, but like having kids has totally grounded me,
So it
right?
changes your life pretty much.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, for sure, right? And like so like especially because I have them on like Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays sort of thing. So
uh,
it's just like throughout the other ways, it's like who wants to go and party on a Tuesday, right?
Nobody wants to go out
Right?
for sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
if I have like the odd day where I don't have them, like maybe like their mom took them out of town on those days, on that days I supposed to have them,
right.
then I'll be like, okay, let's go out with some friends and maybe go out for dinner and have
So
some
quick
drinks,
drink
or
and
like
stuff
if
like
it's like
that.
a friend's birthday, like I'll definitely like make an effort to go or whatever it is. Like maybe I'll switch like days with their mom so I could potentially go out on a friend's birthday and actually enjoy life too, right? So
Right.
yeah.
So like you're no clubbings anymore, I believe, and like nothing like that.
No, not so much anymore.
No, not so
Those
much.
days are
Yeah.
kind of gone. But like, I mean, like, if someone invited me and I was like, "Hey, we're going here," like, and there's a group of us going, like, I wouldn't really be like, "No, no, sorry, man, I can't go no more." Like, those days are gone.
Of
You
course.
know?
I think it changes after a certain age as well, and after you grow up. So, like, right that,
Great.
and if you had too much in your past life as well, it also changes things.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, like for me, I guess it's like if I'm gonna do that, like I'd rather just be like, "Hey, let's go traveling," and then do it on like in a different part of the world, right?
Right, right,
So then you can see like different how different parts of the world kind of like do their thing, right? Like that would be like for me more entertaining if anything.
right. So, what's your best to go place in Calgary?
Um, don't really have like a best to go
No way.
place. Not
It's hard to think
necessarily.
now.
No, I mean like this depends on like the vibe, I guess, right? Like if you're gonna go like smoke some shisha, or if you're just gonna like go to like
Let's say nightlife.
nightlife.
Nightlife, yeah.
I don't even know. Like
What was your place to go?
I don't know. There wasn't really like a set spot. Like we just kind of would just go from one place to another,
Wherever
and we
you
just
find
kind
a
of
good crowd, you would just go
yeah,
there. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
right? Like you just kind of like hop around and you'd find like the vibe and like, hey, we're gonna stay here tonight,
Right there.
right? Or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
wherever it was. It wasn't like because it's like some places are better than others some nights, right? So for me it was just like we would just hop around and be like, okay, like let's go over here, let's go over there, and then we'd find a spot and be like, hey, we're gonna stay here for the rest of the night. This is a good
Right, right.
spot.
So Marvin past and Marvin now, what do you prefer? Nightlife, or you just go for dinner and that's pretty much it?
But well, I don't know, like having a balance, I guess, right? Like I say, I won't do it all the time to go have like that nightlife, but like
Yeah.
once in a while, it's just like yeah, like why not, right?
If you find a good companion, then might be case, or
Well, what do you mean?
like your buddies or anybody like you go along, or
Oh yeah, like if they're good friends and they're like coming, be like, hey, come out. I'm like, all right, let's go, right? Like,
right,
it
right.
depends on the vibe, I guess.
So what do you do when you go step out, let's say from Calgary far away? What's the best place to go to? You go to Banff, Lake Louise, or Waterton, or what's your best place?
Like, even just anywhere. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I like Mexico. I
Mexico,
like
yeah.
Mexico. Yeah.
Which place?
Cancun.
Cancun, yeah.
Yeah, that's like
So
my
just
number one
go
spot.
chill, that's pretty much it, or you go do outside activities as well?
No, I do like all the like I do like a bunch of excursions while I'm there. Like,
Yeah.
like even the nightlife there, just like that's like a cool place for the nightlife. Like if you
Right,
go to
right.
Coco Bongos, they're like,
They're the best,
you ever
yeah.
been there?
Yeah, I've been there, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a totally different vibe in
I,
comparison to any of the clubs here,
oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, so it's
Here
just
you
like
don't find anything, no good crowd though.
no, right? That's just like it's like basically like it's just like a New Year's Eve like dropped into this club like every 10 minutes kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? So it's a totally different
It is.
show,
I think
right?
recently been changed a lot because a lot of crime been happening there.
Right,
So the club's been changing quite a bit, especially in Calgary and Cancun. Cancun is known for drug mafias and all those things.
right.
Yeah. Have you encountered anything there or no?
No, not in
No.
that sense, right? Like I mean, I haven't gone for a few years though, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thing been changed because like shootouts and all those things happening lately. So they've been giving you warnings before you go to Cancun. Be like, okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of like that's been a thing like that for like years though, right? I think
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just got to be careful,
Yeah.
right? Of course.
So what do you so you're from Chile. So what's the best thing there in Chile, like a food or places, anything you recommend people if want to go there?
The food for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're going there, like I mean, like the places there are nice too, right? Like the nice thing about Chile is just like it's just a very long country,
Yeah.
so like you can get different weathers in different parts of the city,
Yeah.
like the country you go to. Like so, the more the northern part you go to is more like desert, hot kind of thing, and then if you go to like the very far south, like you're gonna have like more like mountains, but like what we'd see in the mountains here, like snow and
Yeah.
right mountains down there. So like, um, yeah, like it just kind of depends on where you go, but like there's lots of beaches and like lots of seafood is kind of like the thing. Paellas, like empanadas, like if you ever had those, if you
Right,
haven't,
right.
I would definitely recommend them.
Oh, nice. Anything in Calgary in particular you go to for Chilean food, so
There's an empanada place, like I forget what it's called, but like they have some pretty decent empanadas.
yeah.
Yeah, Empanada Queen, that's what it is.
Banana coins,
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah.
So when we go to that restaurant, so you feel you meet a lot of people around, and especially I think your work related thing as well. You got a lot of people from different communities as well, right? So, what do you feel different about those? What's your favorite dish there?
Um, like yeah, it'd have to probably be the cheese empanadas.
Chinas, bananas,
Yeah,
empanadas. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
And do you go to different part of the Canadian cities to have that kind of thing, or you just whenever you go to different cities, you have different food?
I mean, like, yeah, like when I go to different cities, I have different foods. I think that at the end of the day, like though, like if I'm looking for like Spanish food, like I guess I'm kind of spoiled in the sense just because like my mom just like is like literally like one of the best cooks I know.
Yeah, yeah, of
Like
course.
everyone that's ever tried her cooking is like almost like, oh my God, your mom's cooking. How like how'd you not like grow up fat like eating this type of food?
Right.
Just like, but like, so I guess I'm kind of spoiled in that sense where like I can go and be like I can ask my mom like, hey, like maybe you can make some paella this weekend when we come over, sort of thing. And she'll be like, oh yeah, no problem. And like, or
So she,
empanadas or whatever. She'll just bake them all the time. So like, or even just like pastries. Like
oh,
she'll like
nice.
have like torta miloja, which is like like in translation it means like 1,000 layer cake. And like so you have like this phyllo dough cake that's like layered with like caramelized condensed milk in between each layer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so good. So
So
good.
it's pretty thick though, or
Like it's like regular size cake, but like it's just it like it almost like breaks apart in your mouth. Like
oh,
it's just
wow.
like but
So
like
layers of taste and all those things, eh?
yeah, it's so good though. You have
Yeah,
if you haven't
nice.
tried it, like yeah, I definitely
I'll
strongly
definitely,
recommend it.
definitely have
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So do you mind asking your mom when she's making another one? We'll
Right?
come over. Yeah.
100%, man.
So, is your work allows you to go around the cities, or like it's just
Not
one particular place you work at?
yeah, not necessarily. I would kind of just like so work at one particular place. So I am in located in the community of Corner Brook in the northeast of Calgary.
Right. I remember meeting you there first time. Yeah,
Yeah.
after 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been there for since the entire time I worked with Trico.
Yeah.
And even before when I was with Sterling, I was in Corners. I actually was one of the people that actually opened up Cornerstone Community
For Sterling.
for Sterling back like
Oh,
this would have
okay.
been like back in 2017.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So been ever since you've been working in Cornerstone.
Well, no, I kind of got shifted around, like went to a different builder in between, and then but yeah, like ended up making my way like full circle back to Cornerstone after a few years. So
Right, right.
yeah,
So I think that's your basic place to stay at. I think that's your favorite place, I would say
no,
nowadays, eh?
it's been great, right? Like just the people there, like the clientele you deal with, the demographics you deal with, it's been great.
Yeah, so because Cornerstone is all community people move from different part of Canada, right? So how do you meet people? Like, what their thoughts when they come from Toronto, Vancouver, and they come to Calgary? What their thoughts about Calgary?
Interestingly enough, like I think that like people are moving to Calgary because they feel like their money goes a lot further here, right? Like even just the other day, I saw on the news how someone that moved from Kitchener, Ontario,
Yeah.
and they cut their expenses in half by just moving to Airdrie,
Oh, wow.
right? So like, and I've even seen that personally with some of like the clients who have purchased with me. Had a customer who moved from Vancouver, sold their house for way more than they bought it for over there. Came over here, bought a bigger house, and paid for it in cash, and so they fully got mortgage free, and they
Right.
still had money left over to be able to start a new business here. So like little things like that where they can just like potentially change their life just by coming here because our housing isn't quite as expensive as potentially like Vancouver or Toronto.
But I personally feel Calgary is more expensive compared to. That's my personal thing. If I'm looking at the houses, houses are actually smaller than Vancouver or Toronto, right? I would say Vancouver has bigger houses, like 10,000 square feet lot. Here, what are we offering here is like 35, 4,000 max, right? So
Yeah,
if you compare the land value, is not as much.
just depends, I guess. Depends on where you are, but like um yeah, I mean like Calgary's definitely changed over the years. They used to be a lot less expensive
Right,
like back in like 2020 and like it's just pretty much almost doubled since then, right?
right.
So like a lot has changed, right? Like I don't think it'll ever go back to what it was then. Like I don't think we're going to see those numbers of like buying a lane house in like the 400s ever
Oh,
again,
no, no, no.
you
I
know?
don't think that era will ever come
No.
until there's a bankruptcies around and
Yeah,
there's
we
a
just don't want to
recession.
see that. That'd be a totally different
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I remember seeing that in US back in 2008, 2011. Because then it impacted the Canadian market as well,
right,
and right.
right.
So I don't think that'll actually happen anymore in Canada. Like looking at the scenarios, especially for next couple of years. What do you say?
I mean, like, I think that the nice thing about Calgary, like, is that we back before, like, and you were talking about, like, back in like 2008, we used to be very oil driven province,
Right.
right? Even up until like 2014, like when we had another oil recession, like
Yeah.
again, like very oil driven province. And it wasn't until like the pandemic that like the Calgary started shifting from being more like to be more diversified in a sense where now you're seeing a lot more tech companies come into Calgary, right?
So, what do you think? It'll impact us a longer run or no?
I think it would help in the sense that we may not see like the recessions that we would have saw like if we were going to see like an impact on oil as much as we did, just because I think we're more diversified now, so that we don't see the amount of unemployment and layoffs just because we are so much more diversified.
What I'm feeling like last like 6 7 months, we're having a less jobs right now. Like people are struggling to get a jobs around. But you might have a more ideas because you see a lot of people coming into your show home, where you meet people, especially they're coming from Toronto, Vancouver. Do they struggle when they move here, or
See, I think like for me, like I may not even see that as much as you might see that, like because I like the type of clientele that I see in my show homes are typically like clientele that can, like afford a single family home. They may not be like in like they might be looking for like 500 plus kind of thing,
right,
right? But I don't necessarily see like maybe like the unemployment like of people who are walking into my show home who are just don't have a job, who can't necessarily like afford to buy a home, like
right,
you know what I mean? Like so I don't necessarily see that as much. Like I know I've read on the news like unemployment rates are up,
yeah,
right? Like I've seen the economic reports and stuff, but like I think that like I don't personally see it as much as like maybe someone else might, of course, right?
yeah.
So like I think like it is definitely like harder with like the inflation that we've seen, like where like things have become a lot less affordable, of course, right? And just in the country overall.
I think it's throughout Canada, I'd
Right,
say, yeah. But I like especially the rates, everything like the carbon taxes nowadays, and then your groceries being up, and your what you call electricity, gas, and all they're like actually jamming up together, and they're kind of going higher, like all the out of all the time. Does it impact your clients whenever they come? Like they look at the value, be like, okay, now I can only afford 700, and this is our budget, but you don't even have something to offer them. So what do you come up with in that case?
um like in that case, like I would typically direct them to another community that might be suited for their needs, right? So
Yeah,
like, they come in with like a 700 price point, like my house is start about 775.
yeah,
So at that point I might be like, hey, we have this project that's starting up over here, or we have like this project over here in this community that you could potentially go and visit, like if you don't mind living in this quadrant of the city, sort of thing. So it just kind of depends like on what they're like what they come in talking about.
yeah.
Like I think in interest rates have definitely played a huge part
It
on like
does, yeah.
affordability. Like over the last like few years, that we've seen interest rates just come up and continue to rise, and now there's like starting to hold steady. But like we just don't know if they're going to continue to go up, or if they're
It's
just
hard
going
to
to
say
like
though.
it's so hard to say, right? They
Yeah,
say they're
yeah.
going to come down, but like there's just so many factors that play a part, and we just saw the budgets come out, and now we're like, oh great, like what if interest rates don't come down, right?
Right. No, that's actually a big factor for sure. So like last year, like 2021, 2022, when we had a big boom, people were saying, oh, it's a bubble actually, and actually gonna bust very soon, but it never happened though. That's been almost 2 years now, right?
Right,
So when the builder didn't have that much of the lots to offer to people, and they were actually increasing the price every week. So how big is that impacted back in that days versus now? Because now a lot of people they're scared. Like, okay, builders offering, let's say they've had 10 lots, they might go quick. They might go like all of a sudden now you went there yesterday, but now they don't have anything.
right.
So how do you see that picture, and how do you come up with something in that kind of things?
Yeah, I think like when we saw prices going up week to week, like we knew like that's they weren't going to come down, but like people just were like, no, I'm going to wait for a crash, I'm going to wait for it, like we have more calories in a bubble, like so on
Yeah,
and so forth. And like I kind of understood where they were coming from, but at the same time I was like, there's no indicators pointing that it was going to come down like
right,
anytime soon. Like okay, like sure, like material costs came up,
right.
we saw lumber increase like over like over the prices we never seen before. So then
That's
like
true.
we as builders had to increase the prices in order to cover the cost of materials,
Yeah,
right? So then I guess people thought that the market was going to crash, and it like to this day it hasn't. And um like I think part of me like also feels bad for the people that originally thought that it was going to crash, like mainly because I saw this one customer come into my show home like not even that long ago. And I know I seen them like back in like 2020 2021 kind of thing. And I was like, I asked him, I was like, oh, like you're in the market again, like I take it you bought your home, like because they didn't buy
right.
with us, right? And he's like, no, we haven't bought yet. And I'm like, why haven't you bought yet? Like it's been like, then I see you like a few years ago and they're like,
Right.
yeah, like we haven't bought, like so on and so forth. And here I am thinking like, why haven't you bought? Because like the house that you could have bought back then is not the same house you can buy now.
True,
Like
true,
if you're,
yeah.
unless your incomes like come up like the same direction of like, or the same amount that houses could come up, like you could have bought a house and built some equity during that time frame and you potentially moved up to something now, but they just never purchased. And like they shot themselves in the foot by not taking that
Of
decision, whether
course.
like like they thought that they were going to find like the perfect house. And I think at the end of the day, like the perfect house just doesn't exist. Like you're going to always compromise on something.
I think my personal opinion, I would tell anybody like anytime you're ready, buy a house. Simple as that. Don't look at the picture, what other person has, or what your friend bought a house right now. You might can't afford right now, right? So it's just a buy whenever your pocket allows you to buy it. Simple as that.
Right.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I think there's like they just need to like get in the market because the market's been trending upward. Like had we had a balanced market and it was staying the same, like different story, you probably could wait. Or if it was like if you already had a house and you're building equity, sure, like you're probably not in a super big rush. But
True.
if you're not in the market and the market's been trending upwards and you've seen it been trending upwards where houses are going up $100,000 per year, like where in that point did you realize like you probably should have like bought or like and why didn't you?
Million dollar question is, do everybody need a house like when everybody's buying, or they need to wait? Or it's just a FOMO for people, be like, okay, I want to buy a house because everybody's buying.
Yeah, I mean like that is the $1 million question, right? At the end of the day, it's like it's hard to really give you like have a crystal ball to be like, oh yeah, like the market's going to continue to trend this way and it'll probably never come back, or maybe we might see like a dip in the market. But at the same time, it's like, how do you judge that? Like at the end of the day, if you're going to move into a house, you're probably not going to move right away. Like
Yeah,
most people that move into a house like typically live there for 3 to 5 years,
yeah,
maybe 10. So like at the end of the day, if you're living in your house for that long, like even if the market corrected itself, like it's going to come back up. So
true.
like you could potentially still hold on to it for another few more years. And if you bought at a high and been like, you know what, we're not at the point where we can move, maybe we'll just continue to wait until the market comes back up and then look at buying. But at least you're in the market, building equity, like paying a mortgage down rather than paying
True,
like
true, true.
someone else's mortgage that's as a
100%.
as a, like, a tenant sort of thing.
Well, I think this is a good way to look at things. W- that's a tricky question for you. Is just
Yeah.
how I felt, because as a realtor, we hear this a lot. That somebody wants to go in to see a builder, and now builders tell them, "Hey, don't bring a realtor, and we'll give you actually discounted pricing."
Right.
So how true is that, or how like what do you think?
It does happen in the market,
Yeah,
and I look at it from like a point of like it's not the greatest pitch that you want to kind of tell your clients, of course, right?
yeah,
At the end of the day, like they don't need a realtor to purchase.
yeah.
Like it's not like they have to have it like as they would like a resale purchase,
Of
right?
course, of course.
So they don't necessarily need it. However, at the end of the day, like, and if it's their first home,
Yeah,
I think that having someone that represents them is also a good thing. Because like, for example, like the person that might be selling them home, like they may not necessarily recommend being like, hey, like based on like the demographics in this area or all the houses we've sold in this area, I would recommend you get this and this and this
right,
because like this is what most people are getting. Right. And so like maybe like that person goes and buys a house that like no one else buys in the community. Like we've never sold that house in the
right,
community. And then they go and buy this house because for whatever reason. And then like that salesperson just never told them like, like, hey, like, like maybe not get this house. Maybe like it might be better to get like a more popular home, like sort of thing. Right. It is still the customer's decision.
of course,
Right. But at the end of the day, like having like someone that maybe could be like representing them to be like, hey, like you need these upgrades in your house,
right.
right? Like these are the upgrades that you want in your house, like
For
just
resale
just for
value,
resale value,
exactly.
right? And
Yeah,
then like someone like that's as like has their best interests,
of course,
right? And like and helping them out through the purchase because they might not even know what questions to ask at the end of the day too.
of course, of
So if
course.
someone's like comes in, they're like, oh okay, yeah, like trust blindly, and all of a sudden they sign, all of a sudden like, what do you mean like this is what like how it works? It was like they never had someone actually explain it to them,
Right.
right? And like from like a builder standpoint, I guess like some builders not all builders, but
Yeah,
some builders will cut the commission of the salesperson
yeah,
if a realtor is involved,
right,
right? So they might just be saying that to that customer simply just for the fact that they don't want their commission to get cut,
right,
right? So like in a way that's like it's okay, like it's not an ethical way of doing it, right?
right.
But like they're just trying to work in their best interest, which
Of
not
course,
again
of
it's not
course.
may not be in the client's best interest,
100%, yeah.
right? So like at the end of the day, it's like you just have to make that decision. Like if you built like 4 or 5 homes, you probably know how to build a house,
True,
right?
true, true. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like, hey, like my brother's a realtor. Like I'm gonna bring my brother along because like, hey, I want my brother to get paid regardless,
True.
right? Like family
I
is
just want
family,
to put his
right?
name
So
there.
like
Yeah.
there is some people like that in the market too, where it's just
Right.
like, hey, like if that's how it is, like like they're gonna represent you. Like there's nothing I can do about it if they're here on your first visit, they're representing you. Like
Right.
so,
Because a lot of times when a client goes in first or second time, the builder will be like, okay, now you didn't register your realtor, and before signing up, and we're not gonna allow him on your contract because you never brought him here.
right.
How right is that?
It is correct though. Like they like by like according to Krebs rules, like the customer has to be accompanied by the realtor on their first visit,
Right.
right? So yeah, like it is correct. At the end of the day though, like if it's like it's really like in some in and it depends on the builder's views on it, right? Like a builder could potentially look at it as being like, you know what, like at the end of the day, like it's like is it going to cost us the business of just like not having this business at all by having going down this route?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like at that point, like depending on your builder, you might just have to ask for approval. Where you'd be like, hey, like this realtor wasn't here first visit. Like, is it like and they're making a kind of a big deal out of it? Like, am I okay to put them on it? Like, I'm pretty much going to lose this deal if I don't include them because
Of course.
they had this like it's their family member and they're just their
True.
realtor happened to be out of town like in whatever, right? Like in that case, like you could like ask for approval and make sure it's all good, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
like it just it's case by case.
Case by, yeah.
Yeah,
It all depends, I think, how busy you guys are. So I believe you guys are not associated with Rika or Kreb, are you?
we're still governed under like the body of it.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't necessarily have to have our realtor license to be selling at the show home.
So if you guys misrepresent someone, let's say as a realtor, if you misguide someone, that actually goes back to you, right? It hits you back.
Right,
But in your case, as a builder or builder representative, because you're representing a builder, you're not representing
right,
a client,
right,
right? So
right.
if something goes wrong in a client, what you call a person who's buying a house in trust, will that impact you or builder or no?
The builder, I guess, right? Like it
Yeah,
potentially could impact me depending on how this like severity of it. Like if I
right.
just completely um just I guess like miss dropped the ball on whatever it was that they did, like, you
Right.
know. Depends on the severity, right? Like,
So
yeah,
let's say I'll give you a scenario here. So I want to buy a lot
okay.
and I don't want a box outside. That's a major thing people look at it nowadays, right?
Right.
And now your lot's just been released and you don't know what's happening actually.
Okay.
Because that happened in the back in 2021,
Right.
2022
Right.
when developer was just developing without even knowing where the box going to be and all those
Right.
things, right? So you just tell people like, oh no, there's gonna not going to be any box here.
Right.
And all of a sudden now the house has been built and the box is sitting outside.
Right.
And client says like, oh no, I don't want this.
Right. Yeah, so I mean in that case, like
It's just
it
one
would
scenario, right? So
yeah, so like in that case, like as I've had it happen where like I've gotten new land
yeah,
and then the utilities haven't been decided as to where they're gonna show up. So like
right.
we had all this land, but like no idea where
Of
the
course.
transformer, the shaw box, or any of that was gonna show up.
Yeah.
So in that particular scenario, like like I was like proactive about it,
Yeah.
right? Because you kind of have to be like, especially
True.
like when you just like when you're trying to sell a house. So like for me, like I was disclosing being like, hey, we don't know where the utility is gonna go, so it could potentially show up on your lot.
Right.
So then at that point, I would write a clarification in the contract, being like, this potentially could show up on your lot, and there at that point, like there's nothing that we could do about it.
Right. Right.
Like it would just be like it's like a kind of like a disclaimer to being like, you understand that this could potentially or may not show up on your lot. So like
Right.
at that point, like there was like they would sign off on it to be like if you by you signing off and you moving forward, you understand like this could
This could
potentially
be
happen,
this.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like at least that way of like if they can make the decision on their own and be like, okay, well I understand like there's a small chance it could come up, right?
Right.
And at
Okay.
the end of the day, it's really up to them if they want to move forward or not. But
Right.
like
Right.
disclosing that information is like super important because the last thing you want is them to come back and be like, you never told me that at all,
Right.
right?
So it's the same. The other thing as well, like that. So if something goes wrong,
Right.
you still be working in favor of builder, not a buyer,
It depends on the circumstance,
right?
right? Like it
But
depends
would
on
you ever go against the builder?
no, you can go against the builder, but you can try to like do what you can for the customer, right? So
But you
like
just can send them emails and all those things. You can ask them, you can request them. You're
right.
not going to fight them like, hey, I want this to be done.
Like there's not really like you can, it can't, right? Like it's not really like my decision at the end of the day. Like all I can really do is make the request to be like, okay, like this came up, like
Yeah.
this shouldn't happen, like what can we do in the circumstances to help this customer out,
Right.
right? So like in some cases, like we like we'll work with them, and in some cases it's just like they'll be like, no, unfortunately, like this is just like the way it is, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on the scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, but like again, out of 99%, your work is with the builder, right?
Right.
And you in the favor of builder.
Well, like essentially, right? Like, because like all the agreements we write are
Yeah.
in favor of the builder to
Builder.
protect themselves, right? So like the builder doesn't necessarily get sued for whatever, right?
So
All the agreements are basically there to protect the builder, right? So but at the end of the day, it's like it comes down to doing the right thing,
right.
right? So like for me, it's more like, hey, like what are you like if this customer is saying like makes complete sense to me, like okay, like I understand where you're coming from, like what you're saying makes sense. Like I'm gonna take this information and go back to the builder. I'm gonna fight for you to try to get you what you're asking for. And in some
Okay.
cases, like the builder's like, yeah, we can do that. We'll work with that. Like that makes sense. And in some cases, like they'll be like, no, like unfortunately, like that's not the way it is. Like
Right.
this built like this customer should have known what they were getting, and so on and so forth. So it's super case by case.
Got it. Okay. So there's one clause. It's called escalation clause
Right.
in everybody's contract nowadays, especially after COVID. So what's that clause actually specifically says, and how does it impact the buyer?
Okay, so not every builder has an escalation clause.
Okay.
Some did. And then how that impacted the buyer was like let's say you bought a house and you bought it for 500,000,
Right.
right? And like now let's say it happened more like during the pandemic when the material costs were going up,
Yes.
where some builders had that escalation clause, meaning
Right.
that like if the cost of our materials exceeds the cost that we had originally like sold you the house for, we could potentially add that amount to your purchase,
Right. Okay.
right? So
So
like there were some builders that enforced that.
yeah.
Um and then some builders that enforced that didn't really make it through the pandemic as a builder and ended
Right.
up having to change their names essentially.
Right.
Um so like it wasn't something that was very favorable in the industry,
Yes.
right? So like it was one of those things like even for Trico, like we had houses that we sold that by the time that we like those customers took possession, we basically broke even on them. Like
Right.
we were just like because of the fact that our material costs had gone up, we basically just eroded our margins in during that build process where like we took those customers just took possession and we didn't charge them a single dollar extra and
Extra.
we didn't make any money,
Right.
right? At that point, like in some cases we even lost money. So it was just one of those things where it's just like what was more important to us, like to get that money from the customer
Yeah.
or to hold our reputation to keep our name,
Right.
right? So like a lot of the big builders in town, like they decided not to go that route because like their reputation, their name just means a lot more to them than like, a year where they didn't necessarily make money. Like it was like they had that one year like 2020, 2021, where like a lot of builders just broke even. A lot of builders lost money. Like it was just one of those things where it's like,
Just you keep your reputation up versus
yeah, and like what was more important, right? Because it was
exactly.
just like, yeah, like okay, like we charge you an extra $50,000 to purchase this house now to close on this house, and then like what does that cost us in the
Yeah.
future? Like now you're gonna go and tell like all your friends, and guess who they're not buying with,
Right.
right? So like it's just becomes one of those things where it's like now we've lost all that clientele, and then how long does it take for you to rebuild that reputation back up? Where
Yeah.
like now you can get those clientele back in your door.
Okay.
So it's just like it was one of those things where like not like most of the big builders in town like just did not do it,
Right. Right.
right?
That's
And then like but there was the odd
understandable.
builder in town
Right.
that like they can force that, and like I don't think it worked out very well for them.
Because a lot of people I know they did as well. So they did increase the price, right? So the same lot got sold twice or three times, even four times, because now they've been the buyers actually couldn't close that. They'd be like, okay, I don't want this anymore.
Right.
So they've been giving that back to builder, and the builder sell that again and again and again.
Yeah.
So that happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did happen, especially like because a lot of these like some of the builders during that time frame, like they didn't build the house. They would just be like there was times where they wouldn't build the house, and all of a sudden like they'd be like 14 months into like the time that they purchased to the time that like they were like, hey, like how come my house hasn't started,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And then like the builder was like, well, in order for you to take possession of this house, like you have to pay
Pay
us
as much.
and
Yeah.
add this extra $100,000 to your purchase, or like we can give you back your deposit because we haven't started building the house.
True. True.
So then the problem became though is like some of those customers that bought the house, like let's say they bought it for like 400,000,
Yeah.
by the time like 14 months came along, that house wasn't 400,000 anymore. Like that house was like, if you go to any other building, it was
Yeah,
like probably sitting at like 500,000. So
that's
like
true.
at that point, they were like, I can't afford another like this same type of home anymore. Like I could only afford that $400,000 home. So like by them not doing it and them taking their deposit back, like they couldn't afford that same type of home. So now they're looking for a smaller home just to get into the market. So like yeah, like you can imagine how upset some of these people were who just couldn't like ended up having to take their deposit back or like potentially even pay like an extra hundred thousand
Right, right,
up to $100,000 more just to close on their home. And it was just like what did they really they did like they just the builder would have basically like profited from that or
of
like not
course.
have lost essentially, right?
Yeah. So another terms I heard a lot is called assignment sale, especially people from Toronto or Vancouver. They come here, they ask that, like, hey, I want assignment sale.
Right.
So do you guys offer assignments, or my understanding that Alberta doesn't offer a assignment sale?
Right. So it's they used to do assignments like well some builders used to do assignments before.
Yeah.
Um Nowadays it's just like it's a case by case basis. Like it's got to make sense. Right?
Okay. But does Alberta offer assignment sales? Is it legal in there?
I don't even know. I think there's probably like a gray area. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even like 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
Like, cause like it can be done, but it just can't be necessarily be like, oh, like I as like an investor came and bought it and they just happened to sell it before the customer
Close.
took possession or like before they took possession sort of thing, just because they wanted to not necessarily do all the closing costs and everything and just wanted to quickly profit
Yeah.
before anything,
So
right?
that's not doable, right?
No, like
Yeah.
nothing like that. Like it's got to make sense at the
So
end of the
you,
day as to like why, and like, and it's a case by case basis. Like, and I mean, at the end of the day, the builder could probably just be like, no, we're not doing that, and
right.
or like, yeah,
Because
okay, we're gonna
the
help this person out.
assignment usually is like you also profit the price as well, right? On there, you actually make more money. But Alberta is there. If you want to change the name, that's the doable. Like then you can just put addendum or you just change the name of the client. You don't actually ask them to change the price as well.
No, we don't change the price. So it would
Oh,
just be just the name change. So
name
basically,
change,
like
right?
we take one purchaser out, add another purchaser in,
Right.
sort of
That's
thing.
it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and a last thing to ask you, what's your advice for people who want to come into this industry and, or I would say people who go to builder, what things they should look after?
Just trying to learn, I guess, like, cause there's a lot to learn in the industry. So just like trying to figure out like just learn every aspect of it, like what gets involved, like
Yeah.
how each builder like does their process, like how like each developer has like their architectural guidelines. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn when it comes to the industry. Like like even just like the type of lots you can build on, the type of homes you can build on a lot, whether they're zero lot line, traditional lots. Like
Yeah.
there's lots of different aspects to learn within what you can and can't do.
Right.
Right. So the last thing you want to do is like sell a house that doesn't even fit on a lot, right?
Right.
Because you just never did like you're like, oh, I sold this, triple car garage home and I sold it on a double car garage lot, and you're just like, just
Not
because it was like that's what the price the customer wanted. It's like, well,
right.
yeah, but like the house doesn't fit, so like we can't even make this work. So
Right.
like making sure, making sure you like exactly what you're getting yourself into and or what you're selling essentially at the end of the day, just to make sure you're doing the right thing for your customer at the end of the day.
Right. So just basically do your homework before you come to you guys or
Yeah,
before buy anything.
right. Try to get educated, right? Like
Right.
there's lots to learn, right? And like it's not like you're gonna be able to learn it like day one and be like, okay, I'm gonna sell a house. I'm gonna be selling houses like this month, and it's like no, like just to learn everything. Make
Yeah.
sure like you can get yourself like in the industry, like established in the industry, so you're not necessarily like even just like burning your own name.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Marvin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Was pleasure. Actually, it was a great source information you have given us, and to our viewers as well. And thank you so much once again for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.